Alright, so I'm going to raise this router up here to put my bit in, and I do it a speedy way by using one of these screwdriver bits on my drill. And what I can do is power it up. Oh, wow, it's hanging up there. It's not coming up all the way. Keep running into that problem here lately since I've been using this, and I'm going to have to check out and see why it's doing that. Alright, so I have tried working with this, cleaning it up, trying to brush out all the shafts here or the posts, and the screw, which is what operates the lift mechanism here. Make sure everything is pretty good and clear and so forth, so it'll work freely. But I keep running into a problem where it keeps binding up on me after a while. So I've also, tried to blow out everything with the air pressure and get that going. So I reached out to Incra support, and they got back to me relatively quickly. I think within a business day, and I was impressed with that. And they sent me a list, and I'll make this available as a link to a PDF in the description below, so you can get a copy of this. And what it covers is lift mechanics, and there's 5 steps that they want me to go through to check the lift mechanics on this. Also, maintenance. Obviously, you got to do some maintenance because you're making a lot of sawdust. Obviously, the sawdust is going to, get into things. It's pretty fine stuff, and it'll cause some issues. So then. So it's got 4 steps to that, various things to do for maintenance to keep it clean and working correctly. So this is my first time to go through it, and I'll try to keep this short. I won't, I'll edit out any of the long steps or mistakes that I make. So I won't bore you with a lot of junk that's not useful. We'll get down to what is useful information for you. So stay tuned, I'll show you how I do this. Okay, so I've experimented and tested with this, and I've got this working pretty good now. And I'll show you the details on how I did it, but just to show you how well it works now. Let's see, use this, and it's going up. So I can take it down quite a ways, bring it back up. Works great, no binding. And with the process I'm going to show you, it's about kind of cleaning and lubricating this a bit, also making sure it's mounted in there correctly with your motor and stuff. And this is something you need to do periodically as maintenance and to keep this working smoothly. As we work and make a lot of sawdust, that creates a lot of debris and fine sawdust that gets into the shafts and the screw that makes this go up and down. Depending on how much you use your router and so forth, depends on how often you'll need to clean it. I would say is if you go up and down with this, and if you start to notice resistance, it's not going as quick and smooth as it usually does, it's time to clean it and lubricate it, so we'll take it out. So I'm going to take this out here and get it mounted up on over here where I can put this out and display and show you how I do this. Okay, so I've got this out and sitting upside down here on these boards. I've got a number of different boards on here, so this gives me a total of 1 3/4 inch lift from the surface of my table here to the underside of the plate here for the router. And so 1 3/4 inch in lift that I've got there, that allows me to have this all the way down. Now, first thing I'm going to do is to take the router motor out and then check all my mounting. There's a nut here, or a socket head screw, that operates how this clamps onto the motor. And this takes a 1/4 inch Allen wrench or the crank handle that comes with your lift. This fits this, and just loosen this up so it's loose. And you go enough until it starts to force this open a little bit. You see my router just dropped a little bit, so that's loose there. So now I can just remove the router out of here. set that aside. And then the next thing to do is to check your mounts here. Now these mounts are supposed to be based upon the model and brand of router that you have. And there's instructions that come with the manual on which of these holes to use to set with your particular router. So you get those set up like that, and these screws here, should be relatively loose. If anything, you just kind of get these screws. They got a socket head screw on them. Just want to get them like finger tight, but they're still loose. So you don't want to crank these down with an Allen wrench. You want to leave them so they're loose like this. Then what you do is, we've got this setting up here, is I cleaned up all the parts here, went over it with a like a wire brush or a nylon brush, got things cleaned up real well, blew it out with air, got it pretty well cleaned up. Also cleaned up this screw thread here by going that with the nylon brush too, to get that all cleaned out. There gets a lot of gunk on this screw, and this is what causes most of the binding, is the gunk and the sawdust that gets on this screw here. Other than that, what we do is put this back together again, and I just set the motor back in, and you want to position it in such a manner that it's going to be operable the way you want it to be. The controls are accessible for you. I've got the power cord over here on this part. Over this, the screw that operates the lift on this is right here. So that means that's facing the front of my router table. So I'm going to put the power switch over on this end here also. And the power cord coming out here. This, on mine, the power switch and the power cords are at opposite ends of each other. So I got that in there. These are just finger tight, nothing more than finger tight. Then kind of hold your position on this and tighten this screw up again. So I'm tightening it back up again until you got finger tight like resistance. Then you take it maybe another 1/3 to a half turn more to tighten that. That's all you need to do. You don't need to crank it down, muscle it down, because if you do, you're going to create some things are going to go out of whack, and it's going to create problems with this lift operating smoothly. So you want to keep it that way. Okay, and what that does is that gives me the correct height and everything that I wanted, and I'll have the correct exposure on the top here. When it's fully lifted up, it'll be at the maximum where I want it to be, so I can do my bit changes and so forth pretty easily. Now, next step I'm going to do, turn this around this way, I'm going to put 2 drops of oil on each end of this shaft, and I'll raise it up and down to do that. Then I'll take like a old cotton t-shirt or something like that, put a couple drops of oil on these 2 shafts here, and then wipe these up and down to get a good coat on there, but they're not too wet or anything like that. Should be feeling kind of dry, but there'll still be a light coat of oil on there. Now the kinds of oil you can use is, they recommend a lot of different kinds, including motor oil or even transmission oil. I'm probably going to use some 3-in-1 oil, household oil. It's just about any oil will work, as long as it's not too light of an oil. Like bearing oil might be a little bit too light of an oil. So I'll get these oiled up, and then we'll put this back together and see how well it works. Now I use this drill bit here to raise and lower my lift, as I've shown in another video. Makes it a lot quicker than the hand crank. See which way I'm going here. So I'm extend this. Then I'm going to add some oil to this screw shaft. Like I said, just a drop is like all you need on each of the ends. Then just run this up and down a few times. Don't want to go too hard against the ends. Okay. Got that all the way down. Now what I want to do is the shafts. Sit on here. I've got a piece of cotton t-shirt here. I'm just going to put some oil on this. Actually, I was going to put a couple of drops on here, these shafts, and I'll just wipe that down. I should lubricate those up pretty good. I'll run this up and down again. Let's get it in the right position here so I can work with it. Let's see, I got to hold on to that. I think what I'm going to do is, I'm going to put a little bit of oil on these lower shaft parts here too. Put some oil on my rag. Just a very light coat is all you need. There we go. That should be all done and complete. I'll put it back into the table here. As you can see, I got more lift than I need. Put that down. It still goes at least 2 or 3 inches lower than what it really needs to be, but depending on your bits and so forth, I think this will give plenty of clearance and working length. So this will work great. That's all the higher I need to come in order to change my bits. That's how it works. Well, thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it and you got some inspiration to perhaps do some service or maintenance on your router lift. If you have one just like this, then you've just seen how to do it. All router lifts do have a mechanical mechanism to them, so they're all going to be subject to some of the same problems. So anyways, cleaning and maintenance on this was quick and easy, I thought. Once I've been through the process a few times, found out that I can do this in probably under 10 minutes and be back up and running again. So when you encounter some resistance in your lift going up and down, it's time to get it cleaned. So, all right, so I'll also put a link to the user guide for this particular router lift, which is the Incra Mast-R-Lift 2. And I'll put a link to that PDF document in the description below. So if you enjoyed this video, please give me a like, give me a thumbs up, and share it with your family, friends, and fellow craftspersons. Also, please subscribe and be sure to hit that bell icon so you won't miss anything. And please give me your comments. We love to hear what you think, what you would like to see, what you're interested in. We want to do that. So thank you.